Welcome to Ink and Magic, a podcast where we read and discuss the writing craft, world building, and romance of paranormal and fantasy novels.
If you love books with bite, set in worlds of magic and mayhem, then you're in the right place. My name's Nikisha Shanae. I go by Ines.
And I'm Leslie. I write as El Penelope. And welcome to the show.
What's up, Leslie?
Hey, Inez. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I have been reading other books. I've been cheating on Nalini Singh, but now I'm back.
Yeah, because in real time, it's been a minute since we recorded. We had a bunch, ready to go. And then we took a little break. I did some traveling. I went to Greece. Check out my Instagram if you are curious.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're back.
We are. And as promised, Nalini Singh does beautiful fan service. She writes short stories, short scenes, deleted scenes, and she puts them in her newsletter, oftentimes for free, or she puts them on her website. And there were some stories that I was just itching to read. And now we're there. We read Wild Invitation, which contains 4 stories. Sometimes she wrote them in for like an anthology. And I guess sometimes she just wrote them because she wanted to.
I did not do the background to see where these stories came from. That would have been a good thing to do, but they just exist in this anthology. Then there's several anthologies, because at one point I was like, are we doing Wild Invitation or Wild Embrace? There's several wilds. There are other novellas and short stories peppered around. But today, Wild Invitation, 4 novellas, and we were going to get into them.
It was interesting because it looked like she had done a lot of Christmas things. And that's always fascinating to me when someone who writes paranormal or fantasy does Christmas.
I've been in a fantasy Christmas anthology or midwinter anthology.
And
it's unique. Yeah, it's a unique challenge. If you are doing real Christmas, or are you doing your fantasy version of a winter holiday that is Christmas adjacent?
Because think about it. We're talking about Santa Claus in a magical paranormal world. Like, y'all know Santa's not real.
Well, neither are the changelings or the Psy. So I guess it's
But Santa's existing in the changeling world.
Right, because it's our world. It's some sort of alternate history where there are changeling and Psy, and Santa is still around. So I assume they have St. Nicholas. Maybe Santa was a Psy, or maybe he was a changeling. Did he turn into a reindeer? Is he like a deer shifter?
Speaking of which, so in the very first book of the Wild Invitation anthology, it's Beat of Temptation. And in the prologue of Beat of Temptation, which is Tamsin and Nate's story. Remember, Tamsin is the DarkRiver healer, and Nate is her mate.
He's a sentinel or a lieutenant. I get them confused, but he's high-ranking soldier.
He's high-ranking. I think he was like the right-hand man of Lucas's dad or something. So we know that Lucas goes to him a lot because Lucas is in this book as a kid.
It's right after the big terrible war that happened that took Lucas's parents and a bunch of other people in the pack.
Yeah. But the prologue of this book of Tamsin and Nate's courtship, they talk about how the Psy outlawed Christmas and it didn't work.
Yes, that was, I'm assuming that it was originally for a Christmas themed anthology, although I'm sure someone will tell us. And it was cool. It was just like, you're kind of in for something maybe a little bit lighter hearted than some of the other stories in the series. It's Christmas themed. They tried to outlaw Christmas. They were Grinches. The Psy are actually Grinches.
Yes, they are.
And it did not work.
And the reindeer actually would walk in the street, the changeling reindeer.
Yeah, the changeling deer. And that
was money, of course.
I loved it. They're flouting the law. They're like, we're reindeer.
Stop us. So, another thing. So again, this is Tamsin and Nate's book, and it does take place around Christmas time. But the only Christmas thing in here is Tamsin is decorating a tree.
And, it's got to be adjacent because, like you said, does Christmas make sense in this world of this, futuristic paranormal world? But changelings love a family, and I guess they love holidays, and that means they probably love Christmas. Yes. Although, are changelings Christian? Are there Muslim changelings? Do we have religion? Do we know these things? I don't know. I don't care.
I don't think the original Christians celebrated Christmas.
Well, yes, we all know the history. Christian was a pagan thing, and then they tried to convert pagans and all of that. But still, there are enough Christians who will maintain the reason for the season is the birth of Jesus, which Nalini Singh does not mention at all, and we
No,
didn't really need that.
no.
Do we have Jesus? I guess, well, there are churches, so there's Father Xavier, so there is
Yeah, there
Christianity
are
in the world.
churches in this world.
And I guess he says in one of those books that he's got parishioners from different races. So there are changeling Christians, and I would assume there would be changeling every other religion in the world as well.
Wonder. Oh, I doubt she would go into that, but that would be fascinating.
Well, maybe because she had a little subplot about this Psy woman who was a parishioner of Xavier's, and he had like it was Caleb's book, one of those books where one of the arrows was trying to go find her because she disappeared, and I don't know that that was fully resolved, but maybe it's one of those things that
Ooh,
will
we're
pop up
about to
later
get
on.
to the arrow books too.
I know, yeah. Like it seems like is a seed she was planting that was going to sprout in 10 books? Maybe so, because she does things like that.
She does do things like, oh, now I'm really excited. Okay, back to Tamsin and Nate. I didn't realize that that their romance was age gap.
I didn't realize either. Yeah, I guess I got the impression. I was never sure how old she was, or
Mhm,
she seemed older, definitely, but I didn't
mhm.
never thought about it.
She's very maternal. Like, when we first meet her, she was all kinds of maternal.
Mhm.
And I was always confused of how much older she was than Lucas.
Right.
And we learned in this book that the mating bond snapped into place between her and Nate when she was 15.
And he was 25,
Yeah,
which of course meant that they couldn't do anything about it for years.
exactly. But they became, well, at least in his eyes, he became like her best friend.
Mhm.
But she wanted to bang him.
Well, not at that age, but I think once she
Mhm.
became older, it's, and even though the mating bond, snapped into place, they didn't accept it. Like, he didn't accept it.
He didn't accept it.
Right, because he it's interesting, the romantic conflict in this book, I think in general is pretty strong. It's like, okay, the age gap, she's a teenager, so
Mhm.
he's doing the right thing by waiting for her to grow up. When this novella starts, she's 19, and she's been away at, like, medical school or some sort of medical program.
Mhm.
And I was like, I wrote down that I was surprised he would let her leave his site to go across the country, considering how protective these alphas are. But then I spoke too soon because,
Yeah.
yes, he's still very protective.
He's still very protective, but he also, that's another theme of this book, is he wants her to experience life. He's had the opportunity to go out there to roam, to
Mhm.
have his own little sexcapades, but she hasn't because she was 15 when that bond snapped into place.
I'm pretty sure he's not open to her having sexcapades of any kind, but he wanted her to at least travel and see the world because his parents were not mated, and he felt like his parents were trapped in their relationship.
But see, that was the thing. That's what annoyed me about Nate in this,
Mhm.
is that he
Yeah.
kept saying, "I want you to go out. I want you to experience the world." But whenever she tried to move a toe, he freaked out.
Yes. He was very irritating. I mean, like, I was mad at him the whole time until the very end, because at the end, I was
Mhm.
like, obviously she forgives him, but he didn't grovel enough for me, and I don't know. His whole thing, the hot cold,
Yeah.
you have to roam. Like, I won't accept you because you haven't had enough time and space. But yes, she takes a step out of line, and he's there on her back. It's annoying.
Do you remember the 50 Shades of Grey movie, the very first one, where Anna is in the bathroom and she's drunk and she's on the phone with Christian, and there's that whole scene and she's like, come here closer. No, go away. I need you to stay away. No, come here. This is the book.
Yes, push pull, push pull, pull pull, push push.
Yes. But at the same time, with this particular age gap and it being Fated Mace, this is one of my favorite things. I also think about Twilight,
Hmm.
where Jacob imprints on Renesmee,
Yes, as a
right?
baby, as an infant.
It's like, what are you gonna do? Right?
Right. I
Because
mean,
as
you
soon
got
as they imprint, as soon as the mating bond snaps into place, neither one of them want anybody else.
Yeah, and it would be cheating to be with anyone else. That's why he's not really saying go sleep around because that's not acceptable. But go have experiences, go maybe just live other places. I- And I mean, it's understandable. His thing is understandable and yet incredibly irritating at the same time.
Yeah, 1000%. These books are short, so I don't know that we have too much to say. I will say it was very funny to have the pack nosing around in their relationship.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um,
And
how
when she gets support, She gets support saying like she's 19, she doesn't have a lot of experience. So one of Nate's actual ex-lovers, I guess,
Mhm.
Juanita, is like, okay, honey, this is what you have to do. Make him
Mhm.
jealous. And starts working. She's making him jealous. She's like dressing sexier and being more independent. And of course, predictably, he is doing his alpha caveman thing. And then, when it gets really bad, everybody comes down on him, like her
Yes,
mom, the
as
whole
they should.
pack, the juveniles, and it's as they should. So it was nice to see that sort of everyone came together behind Tamsin to try to like knock some sense into his head.
Because as she's trying to basically seduce him, he's saying no,
Mhm.
which really hurts her, and he can't see this. It hurts her because she starts to doubt her attractiveness. She doesn't think that she can tempt him, like, that he does not want her,
And
and
it's an
that's why he's saying no.
interesting Yeah, it's an interesting, like, juxtaposition between the mating bond, which you do not choose, and still being
Mhm.
attracted and being in love, which is a separate thing. You can be mated and have this psychic bond or whatever, but, is she attractive to him? She feels very plain versus the other women he's been with, and making that conscious choice. And that comes through in some of the other novellas, in this collection as well, about, like, okay, mating versus love and, free will.
'Cause he blocked the bond.
He physically blocked the bond because he had to at 25 and 15. The only way he was going to be sane, knowing he couldn't have sex with anybody else for years, he had to block the bond. And it's, once again, understandable. But like when she says she's ready, he's still being like this paternalistic, oh no, you're not ready. I'll know when you're ready. I'll give you 6 more months, or, like that. That
Like,
was
it's
just
your
nobody.
choice and it's not her choice at all.
Right. Right. No one has time for that. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Nate.
well, you did not grovel enough for us, Nate. Like, we know you from later books and we love you, but you did not grovel enough
You
in
did
this
not
book.
grovel enough. We needed a
Mm-mm.
lot more groveling. But yeah.
Okay. This book also gave me anxiety.
There was no sex scene at
There was
all.
there was a sex sentence.
Yeah, I was like,
There
"Uh-oh,
was a
did she just
sex
run out of
sentence.
time? What was happening here?"
I
I was
don't
not
know.
expecting all this buildup and then like, "Huh?"
It was a sentence, y'all. So if you want to read this book, like, the conflict is fun in this book, even though we don't think he groveled enough, but we don't. Nalini's saying I got mad at you because after all that, we were owed a scene and
We
not a
were
sentence.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, "Okay, is that like a portent of what's to come in the rest of the novellas?" But it was not.
Well,
I think it was maybe it was an anthology where they were sweet books in there or something, who knows?
but that moves us on to Stroke of Enticement with two new people that I don't remember, Annie and Zach.
Yeah, we hadn't, as far as I know, we have not met them before. Maybe there were mentions. I'm sure someone like Zach would have been mentioned, but or maybe they were both mentioned, but they are new to us, and I was excited. I was here for a brand new couple, a meet cute, which on the page, which I love to see, and I actually loved the story. I thought this was super
Oh,
fun.
yay!
Yeah.
Well, let's start at the prologue because Nalini Singh's prologues really interest me because I feel like they're television teasers, which kind of
Yeah.
like set you up. It's not like starting in a new. Sometimes prologues will start at a different place in the story, but I
Mhm.
always feel like her prologues are like slice of life. She's like in the last episode or this episode of As the World Turns. That's what I feel like they are. And in this prologue, it's written from Annie's POV as a kid, and again, it's a holiday novella. So in it, Annie is writing a letter to Santa Claus because she wants a friend because she's in the hospital.
Yeah.
And in addition to setting this up as a holiday novella, that was the only holiday mention that I can remember. She also elicited empathy. We immediately were on Annie's side because she wants a friend
Yeah.
so badly,
And we
and
know
I wanted to be a friend.
she's yeah, she was injured, and that comes into play later on.
Mhm.
But yeah, child Annie, and then we immediately go into now she's a teacher
Mhm.
with some badass little kids.
Mhm. And badass, true badass little kids, but the kid that we are introduced to who's gotten into trouble, he had a good reason, which we'll
Yes.
get to in a second. Because his mom can't come, his dad is away, I think, or they're at their other kid's soccer game. So
Mhm.
he's like, no, I don't want you to bother them, which already tells you about this little kid and how the honor that he has. And so who comes by Uncle Zach. And
Uncle
Uncle
Zach.
Zach comes in strong.
He's coming in hot, y'all, hot. So we should mention Annie is human, and
Mhm.
these are also leopards, right?
Mhm.
Zach is a leopard. And so she teaches at a school that has a mix of kids, changeling and human. And so little Brian punched another kid, won't tell Annie why, says, I'm only telling Uncle Zach. I'm not going to say nothing until Uncle Zach gets here.
Mhm. And he punched a weaker kid. I think that's important too.
It was
The
a
kid that
swan
he punched
shifter.
was a swan, and who's not swans aren't predators. And when Zach comes in, he comes in strong with Annie, but he's when he's talking to his nephew, he's reminding his nephew that, you know, we protect, we use our strength to protect. And then the nephew tells Zach why he punched this swan, who always kind of comes off as wah, I'm kind of weak.
Mm-hmm.
And the swan said some nasty things
Mm-hmm.
about Annie.
Yeah. So he was, in his way, in his little child way, he was using his strength to protect his teacher, who did not deserve all of that slander.
Because even though Annie, she survived a train crash,
Mm-hmm.
and they had to rebuild her leg, but it was so destroyed, and the technology, I guess, wasn't the best at the time for them to completely rebuild it. So she still has a slight limp that can get bad, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what the swan was making fun of.
And also, I think she's like a curvy girl, and maybe there was something about that
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, that hit the swan's mom.
Yeah, it all came from the mom. Parents, come on.
Hmm.
But Zach comes in
But
hot
Zach,
with Annie, immediately attracted, immediately flirting, turning on all the charm,
all of it,
spotlight level charm. And
glaring.
who can withstand all of that?
She tried.
She does try. She makes a valiant effort. I love the flirting. I love the romantic tension and the conflict. I was writing down that we don't get a ton of just pure flirting, just fun flirting in these books, because of
Mm,
just the different ways and all the carnage and destruction that's happening. So this
yeah.
was like a nice little respite of, oh, okay, he is charming and he's showering her with the affection, which we get a lot, but in a not such an, I don't want to, it's not actually true. I was going to say not such an alpha way, but it's a dominant way. But he realizes, okay, I've got to take this slow and like not scare her off.
Nalini Singh is so well balanced with consent. Like we
Mm.
just did the dark romance episode with Sky Warren,
Hmm.
where she talked about how you have these heroes and they know sometimes they're doing bad, but
Right.
they know who they are, and they make a way to get the consent, right? And even though Zach was coming in hot, he still was like, "You good with this?" And
Yeah.
she was like, "No," but you could tell she was like, is that
Kinda.
kind of right?" So he's getting her consent. The other thing that I really liked about this book, so we didn't mention because it really wasn't worth mentioning. In Beat of Temptation, there was a villain that was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, because it just fizzled. I was like, is there going to be some kind of fight in this book? There was a Psy villain. Yeah, it really isn't a
Not
thing.
necessary, completely. There's a villain in this book too. Annie's mom.
Yeah, yeah.
This is my favorite kind of villain. This is an antagonist, right?
Hmm.
And one of the things that I learned in film school about antagonists is that they're not necessarily evil, that they are just in opposition to what the hero wants,
Right.
right? Annie wants to be independent. She wants to be independent to the sense where she physically independent, because remember she had this injury and her
Hmm.
mom was there. So her mom couldn't free her child. So I get it, mama. I get it. Her mama wants somebody to take care of her. She thinks she's constantly trying to set Annie up with these really intellectual guys that she thinks will like be able to take care of her. And Annie's not having it. She doesn't want a man. She doesn't want her mom hovering. She doesn't want any of this. But Zach is similar to what the mom wants. Zach immediately he can sniff. He's a leopard. He's gonna sniff it out. He's like, she smells good. She might be mine, right? And immediately he wants to crowd her. He wants
Hmm.
to take care of her. However, he even though he wants these things, he's still trying to get the consent. So he's going about it in a different way than mom, but he wants what mama wants.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that, but it turns out that he is what the mother wants. He has this secret PhD that we
Of
find out
course
about.
he does.
because the mother is a professor at Berkeley, and yeah, they're all about academics and stuff. And so we have this changeling, and what we hear is he works in Yosemite, he does something with animals, but yes, he also has a PhD. So Mama turns out to be happy at the end because even though
She
she's
got
kind of
what she wanted.
yeah, and she was prejudiced against changelings. That was the other part of it because she didn't think they were intellectual. They were, uh, they're supposed to be brutish, and which they kind
Mhm.
of are, but like also you can be multitudes.
They
Uh,
absolutely can. I totally got 9.5 week vibes in this book because, of course, there's a scene where they're playing a game and, he wins, she loses, that kind of thing.
right. Yeah.
Right, and, one of the forfeits of the game is that he feeds her, um, and he also, he wins a kiss,
Yeah.
and he makes her wait for the kiss, and so she's just like, "When is it gonna happen? When is it gonna come to me?" But, yeah, I got total 9.5 weeks, vibes.
Was this the one? Oh no, that's the next one. There's so many parallels and themes of these books because
Mhm.
I thought yeah, the next one he actually says, "I can't wait to feed you," and I was like, "Oh, which book was that in?" But he does feed her in this book as well. So
One of the things that I'm surprised you didn't bring up, Leslie,
mhm.
is, when Annie gets, 'cause remember she's in this train crash, her mother was with her, and she's underneath some heavy stuff, um, and her mom couldn't get her out.
And who gets
Why,
her out?
Les
A certain TK cardinal, double cardinal as a child gets her out. And I believe this was mentioned in Caleb's book that he did this as a child. He saved someone from a train. And so all these little connections, these Easter eggs that you're getting are very delicious. I love to see Caleb no matter what, even if we don't get his name, but we know who he
you
is.
know who he is.
Yeah, that was great.
So, of course, things work out between, Annie and Zach. Um, he gives her the space that she needs, but at the same time, he also, pulls her close because she was adamant, like, "I'm not getting married. I don't want nobody. I don't want nothing."
And it's because of a place of pain, and he recognizes this when he meets her parents, that because her parents, even though they're together, the father is just very distant and in his
Mhm.
own world, and the mother is craving love and attention and affection that she doesn't
Mhm.
get. And if Annie grew up seeing this relationship, yeah, she's gonna be like, "Oh, no, I don't want that." She doesn't understand what real relationships could be like, so she doesn't believe that it could happen for her. But at the same time, the mating bond is kicking in, and she, even as a human, is starting to feel it. She's
Yeah.
feeling very drawn to him, and he knows that this is his mate, and he's gonna have to do whatever it takes to bring her along slowly.
She's so good about found family, Nalini saying, because there was
Mm,
found family in Beat of Temptation, all of them nosing in, there was completely in pack,
yeah.
and, Zach brings her around pack. We get the pack with the nephew, and
Mm.
then, and all the other parents that kind of are satelliting around her, but then she takes her to a winter picnic. That was the other Christmassy thing. He takes her to the winter picnic, and they immediately pounce on her like, "Oh, you're one of ours now." And that's
It was
another way that he got her.
it was funny because Lucas shows up, and, Lucas shows up to Zach's job for some reason, and Zach's like, "I'm bringing somebody tomorrow." And Lucas is like, "When did you meet her?" He's like, "Yesterday." And then Lucas knows immediately what's up, like, "Okay, you're bringing her to meet your family, and you met her yesterday? Okay, I got you."
I know exactly who this is.
That was great.
Yes. Okay. Which then brings us to declaration of courtship with Grace and Cooper, who I remember their names.
Yeah, because there were references to their new relationship in Riaz's book, maybe? This is before Riaz and Indigo get together.
Yeah,
I
because 'cause they're
mean,
friends.
yeah. So we've heard about this couple, and we've seen Cooper, like, on the video screen or whatever. But yeah, no, they're new to us.
Yeah, because 'cause they're in some kind of an enclosure. I got confused about that.
They're in a satellite pack so we've moved to the wolves. These are SnowDancer, and SnowDancer has the main den, but they have satellite dens because they have such a big area. So I felt like this den was somewhere like Arizona, or there are some mountains that I don't know where those mountains are, but they're in the Southwest. Not super far from San Diego. So yeah. And Cooper is it Sentinel or Leopard for the wolves? I get them
I thought
confused.
it was lieutenant.
Lieutenant. What did I say? I said
Uh
leopard. Sentinel or lieutenant is what I meant to say for the wolves. So lieutenant, so he's very high up, and he's basically the mini alpha of this satellite
Mhm.
group. He's in
Yep.
charge of everything. And Grace is an extremely submissive technical person,
Yeah.
maintenance woman.
Yeah. So it's an alpha and submissive story, and
Mhm.
immediately on the first page, he comes in hot. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm declaring my intentions. This the title of this book is Declaration of Courtship. And
Yes.
that's what he comes to her door and tells
He
her. I'm
declares
going
his
to court
courtship.
you. Here are the rules. You can say no at any time, but understand I'm full court pressing you right now.
And it's interesting that when we have 2 changelings together, it's always a dominance submissive thing. We've seen Mercy Riley, we've seen, Indigo and Andrew. I don't know, I said Riaz before. It's just always like, is the woman we've seen before the woman is too dominant, she's worried about that. Now we have the opposite end of the spectrum. Is she
Mhm.
too submissive for this to work? And it really brought up interesting things that we haven't delved into about the nature of dominance and submissives in this world.
Because she keeps Grace keeps resorting back to the hierarchy. Like she tries to come forward. She tries to think like, what can I do this? And immediately her wolf is like, no, back to the hierarchy, back to the rules of pack. Not trying to like be his partner, but
Mhm.
to be his subordinate. She can't seem to figure out how to make that work.
'Cause it seems like it's just this instinctive thing. It's just like it's her wolf, so it's this disembodied other being that shares her
Mhm.
body, and
Mhm.
her wolf is very submissive, so around a very dominant wolf, it's like she always feels like like showing her neck and not challenging him, but she does challenge him constantly. It's just that if he gets too much, she
Mhm.
cowers back, and it's a real question of how do you have a relationship like that?
Yeah. So I remember reading it was primal submission versus conscious passion.
Mm,
Like that's where the battle lines were drawn, and it was like, how can I do this? And so Cooper declares that he's courting her, and he starts to give her a lot of presents. I thought that was really interesting because Indigo's guy did that too. Tons
true.
of presents. Thank
You
you.
and Hawk did presents too. Hawk,
Hawk
yeah,
did
presents are
presents too. So funny.
but I mean, yeah, and it's like, oh, this is where, Cooper says, "I can't wait to feed you," and I wrote, "Keisha will love this."
Yes. I'm sure I did.
But the kind of
Yes,
scary
and
thing
just like, they did chocolates in the other one too. Oh,
yeah,
oh,
I know,
yes.
you're a chocolate person.
I'm very much of a
The
chocolate.
sort of scary thing is though, like, in this world, a dominant man could force his dominance to literally force a submissive woman to have sex with him because
Yeah.
just to make, the conflict go away. It's like a super heightened version of conflict avoidance, which it just has a lot of, like, very scary implications for other packs, other people who aren't so conscientious and good-hearted and honorable.
And her siblings come in because they think that might be what's happening.
Right, yeah. It's like they get closer and she's constantly so she's holding her own, and but, like, they'll take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and her wolf will be like, "No, I don't think so," and any sort of not even anger, but any, too much emotion from him will
And
cause her
she
wolf to retreat.
Yeah.
And but she's working on it. She's pushing, she wants him. She wants this
Yeah.
relationship to work. And then her super dominant siblings come and are like, "Wait, what? No, and they step in the way. And she actually has to use as much of her power as possible to keep Cooper from like ripping them apart because
Yeah.
they're going against the hierarchy by even doing that.
Yep.
And it's so instinctual. It felt like a multiple personality story. They're not
Oh,
in control of the wolves at all. His wolf, even though he's a responsible lieutenant, when he's challenged by these other two wolves, it's like he literally can't control himself. He is going to go attack them, and she has to physically put herself. She has to like climb on him to stop him from destroying her siblings.
yeah. Leslie and I are big fans of Michael Haig. And Michael Haig talks about this character arc of false identity versus true essence. And that's what this story was screaming to me
Mm,
because even though Cooper immediately knows this is the woman that I'm going to mate, he sees that he's going to have her, and she's unsure. But there's another layer that she sees of him that nobody else saw. So Cooper's having these nightmares because his parents were killed in a car crash.
right.
And so he has these night terrors, and he has his room is like soundproof so that no one will hear him scream because he feels that will make him look weaker amongst the pack. But as Grace is getting closer to him, she sees that something is not quite right. So she sees his true essence behind the false identity that he is trying to hold on to, which I thought was super interesting.
And it's also her submissiveness that allows her, it's like a superpower that lets that happen.
But so we get to a dark moment, right? And this is all, I love it when it's just all about the relationship. There are no villains. I don't need a villain.
It's this romantic conflict all the way up.
Right, because the villain was really, it's all internal. He
Mm,
did not want to tell her what was going on. So he would not, even though he wanted to sleep with her, he did not want to sleep with her.
mm, mhm.
So he, they get together and he gets up and he walks away. Not walks away, like walks away. He leaves because he knows,
He
I don't
can't
want to
sleep.
have a night terror with her.
Yeah.
But she knows that something is wrong. So even though they are moving closer together, the dark moment happens when he won't break those walls down and tell her the truth. And the grand gestures when he finally tells her, "This is, I have these nightmares."
Mhm.
Because he tells her about his parents' death, but he doesn't talk to her more about, like, I have these nightmares. This is why I'm nervous. But at the same, so he shuts her out because of the nightmares. That's the dark moment. But when he finally is able to tell her, like, this is what's happening, and they finally do sleep together, he doesn't have the nightmares
Yeah.
because she's his balm to his soul.
Right, and it's just so beautiful and lovely. And I think that, his dominance wouldn't allow him to appear weak in front of her, and so he believes that. But at the same time, there's no way they could have a relationship if he doesn't open
Yeah,
up and show his whole self. And so much of romance is about that.
yeah,
It's like you can get but so far, but until everyone is completely laid bare emotionally, you can't have that true essence of a relationship.
yes. Which is what we all, that's, I think that's the basis of all romance novels, is how do we get to the
Mm,
true essence? Because the lovers can see it, but you don't, you're still hiding it. Like, you're still behind the curtain. And until
right.
you personally take the curtain off,
Yeah.
that's
It's
when it happens.
the internal conflict having to be solved before the external conflict can be solved.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
this is a great example of that structure really working, on the relationship level.
Which again is why we didn't need the villain in Tamsin and Nate's book. It was completely unnecessary because they had enough going on to solve that.
Yeah, and then he never even showed up. You're just
No,
like, "Oh, okay. No, no, no,
like,
never
why is
mind."
it on the book? Anyway. Which brings us to the reason that I was so excited to read this book. We get Lara and Walker's book, Texture of Intimacy.
Well, it's kind of, I mean, it is their book. Yes, they are the main
It
couple
is
in
their
this,
book.
but it is after they've already gotten together.
Yes.
So
They're
the
already made
issue, they've already made it. It's right after. It's like hours after the
it.
events of whatever the big fight with the Psy, where I guess Hawkins Sienna's book. It's right after that.
Yeah. Yep.
And so there's not really much conflict. It's very slice of life. It's very checking in with people, seeing how happy they are. They have some bumps in the road. Uh, there's a bump that I guess is a dark moment, but like it's a
Mhm.
very shallow dark moment.
I feel like the conflict that was presented to us is Walker thinking that worrying about whether or not he'll be a good mate,
Yes, I think so.
which wasn't enough.
Right. It's not enough weight for the length of this. Um, yeah.
Well, for the length of it, but also because he just kept showing her over and over again. Like, early on in the book, Lara talked about how Walker was like, I want to explore oral sex, and he was great at it. And then he wanted to explore having stand-up sex in the shower, and he was great at it. It's like, these are not compliments. I mean, these are not issues. Walker, you're being a great mate. There's no conflict.
There's no problems here.
No problems. You're taking care of the kids. You're finding her, and you're making sure that because you were already taking care of her when you guys weren't made it. You're still doing all that stuff. Unfounded worries, my friend.
Yeah, and then when it comes to, there's a point where Lara's POV is like, and I thought it was gonna be okay, then it finally happened. Like the thing that she was afraid of finally happened. But by that point, I had forgot what she was afraid of. Uh, but it turns out that Walker shuts down emotionally after a child under his care is injured. And they have their first fight, and then they
Right.
make up, and
On the next page.
um, and everything is fine. And like it's a novella where not a lot of conflict happens. They're living their lives. We're checking in with people. We're seeing Toby and Marley and Judd. We get a little, you get little snippets of this and that, little bits of history, and it's just a nice
It
luxuriation in
sets up
life.
it sets up the arrows a bit because we're about to move into our arrow era.
Yes, our Arrow era. I like it.
Mhm.
But yeah, as far as, it, it was nice. It just was like, okay, we're just gonna be here and live life a little bit. No complications, low stakes,
No
low
stakes.
angst,
No, yeah.
low conflict.
But
Marley
it
has
had
a
sex.
nightmare. Sex, we did have sex. So hey, there's lots of sex actually. Per capita, I think we had the most sex in this one than any of the
Right?
other.
It made up for Beat of Temptation where I got my anxiety.
And yeah, so checking in with people. Um, I thought there were some thematic connections with the first three, and this one was more just like, hey, fan service. People want to just be with these characters some more. So I'm just
Mhm.
going to give you more of what you want, which is to be with the characters more.
And that is all that I can say about Texture of Intimacy. I mean, I recommend reading these books. They're nice and fun.
Yes.
Low angst.
I've been on a like an Insta love kick,
Oh, yeah.
trying. Yeah, I've just read like short KU Insta loves because I just don't have the mental capacity for a
Mhm.
long, complicated book right now. Um, and this is kind of scratching that itch, especially with Stroke of Enticement. You get the full meet cute to mating forever in probably 60 pages. I don't know.
I
Uh,
love that. That is a skill.
it's a skill. Yes, and she's proven she can do the long, she can
Mhm.
do the short.
Yep.
Nalini Singh can do it all. And yeah, I was liking those little hits. Declaration of Courtship too. It's kind of like not a meet cute, but they're new, they're starting out. That had a lot of internal conflict. And then you just get some, living life on the page and that's nice, like, in and of itself.
Yeah. So we get to move into the next. Like I said, we're about to be in our Arrow era, which I'm super excited about.
I love the
And
arrows, so I'm excited about that too.
I think the next one up, Shield of Winter, I think it's Psy and Psy.
It's Aiden's book, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and I haven't looked to see who his heroine is, but have we had
No, it's Vasek's book.
oh, it's Vasic
Shadow
and then
of
Aiden.
Winter.
Shield of Winter?
Shield of Winter is Vasek and someone who we don't know yet, Ivy Jane.
Okay. Well, we're gonna find out.
Yeah, I can't tell from the blurb if she is Psy or human.
Yeah.
We will see. I'm very excited to see. I'm very excited to see what she does with these arrows. Who, if we remember, they were like, how they were looking at Judd like, how are you doing this? How are you finding love? How are you finding happiness? Are we allowed to do this?
Right. Yeah, that was so cute.
Oh.
And I've been, as I've been looking forward to Vasic's book, even though I never got around to it the first time since we met Basic. So I am definitely excited
Mm,
to get into him. Uh, have we had Sci before? We've
I
had
don't
Sci
believe
Human.
so.
I don't know that we've had Sci, so
And we don't know if this
we
is
don't
sci-fi.
know. But I feel like at one point we probably will get it. She's
Yeah,
she's done everything else, so
she's and everything else except for
we will.
human, because that'd be boring.
That's all the other books in the world are like that.
Speaking of other books in the world, Leslie, is there anything fun and amazing that you are reading or watching?
I recently watched the film 3,000 Years of Longing upon a certain other author's
Who?
recommendation, a certain
What?
person who might be on this call. Uh, I don't remember why you told me to watch this movie. I remember when it came out,
Because
I
it
saw
was a
the trailer.
gin.
Okay. And I'm right, it was Wishes, and I don't think I've published a book with Jin in it, but I have had Jin in my universe of unpublished books for many,
Oh,
many years.
I can't remember what's published and what's not.
I
Okay.
know. I know. I've got a couple on the back burner that haven't been ready. They're cooking, but they haven't
Wait,
been ready to go
there's a
yet.
gin in Earthsinger.
It's not called a Jin. There's no Jin in
Oh.
Earthsinger. There was supposed to be Jin in the Angel books, but I never finished that book with the djinn in it, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, 3,000 Years of Longing is a djinn book. It's Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba, modern day. She finds this bottle with a djinn in it, gets her 3 wishes. You know, I didn't realize that George Miller had had such a varied career as a filmmaker. I knew him from Mad Max. I had forgotten he did Happy Feet. I think he did The Witches of Eastwick or something. George Miller is a film director that does whatever the hell he
Wow.
wants to do, and it's fascinating. And I love artists like that. Anyone who can, just stray wildly from the beaten path is very cool. It's a gorgeous movie. The actors are amazing. 75% of it is really good. And then she makes her wish, and I'm like, huh? And the rest of it is just like, I immediately started watching YouTube videos to explain to me what was happening at the end of this movie. So
Okay.
if you want an experience that is beautiful and like the storytelling for most of it is very interesting, it doesn't come together in a way that was sensible to me, but it's still, I think, actually worth watching. I didn't go around the first time because the trailer was so crazy. I'm like, what is this? I don't know if I
Yeah.
have time for this.
The trailer makes no sense. It does not tell you at all what it is about. I see what you're saying, Leslie. At the end,
Hmm.
yeah, it kind of turns into a love story that you weren't expecting. I agree with you.
And that I didn't believe in.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
And then
agree.
there were all these little like other weird things that never connect, and you're like, what am I supposed to do with that? What was that guy in the airport? What was the guy in the audience? Like, what was that? So, but it has a cool thing that I actually have written about, which is the Queen of Sheba and Solomon, who
Mhm.
are in Monsters We Defy. And so they have a take on that story too that I have a different take on in the book that I wrote. And it was very interesting to see what they did with that story. And the woman they had playing the Queen of Sheba is probably the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, oh my God,
Oh, wow.
where is she from? So yeah, worth seeing, but like, adjust expectations. It's an experience more so
Watch
than
it at
a
home.
yes, yes. It's an experience. What about you, Inez? Any reading or watching anything worth talking about?
I started watching, don't at me, Supernatural. Yes, I know it came out in what, like 2001? That's when my daughter was born.
Wow.
Yes. I didn't get it. Um, and I love that character from Gilmore Girls, but I don't like scary stuff, and I assumed it was scary, so I did
Mhm.
not watch it because I am the wimpiest wimp of wimps when it comes to anything psychological or thriller or ghosts, like, I'm not gonna do it. And I feel like it's one of those shows you have to watch at night because it's dark a lot of the time. It's a quirk of mine. And I finished the first season in a week, and I see how wrong I was, so you don't have to at me. It's really good. It's
Well, it's good
really
to know.
good.
I figured it had to be to be on for so long, but yeah, I never watched that. I was in grad school when it came out, and I didn't have time for all that.
I was warned that it's not a romance,
Mhm.
which I always appreciate when people warn me about that so I can set my expectations accordingly.
Mhm.
But they were wrong because it is.
Well, you've only
It's
seen
a
season 1, right?
it's a romance between these 2 brothers.
I have heard that before.
You clearly have the elder brother, Dean,
Mhm.
who cannot deal with emotions, does
Mm.
not wanna deal don't and he's funny about it, he's hilarious about it. Every time there's a touching or poignant moment, he's like, "Do not make this into a chick flick," and you just bust the tension. And then you have his baby brother, Sam, who he saved in the very first episode, who's like the chosen one. He gives off those vibes. I'm only in season 2, but he gives off chosen one vibes,
Mhm.
who is much more well-adjusted, who spent time in the regular world because these 2 brothers hunt demons.
Okay.
That's the family business, is that they hunt demons. Their mother was killed by a demon when, Sam was a baby in the cradle, and she basically sacrificed herself for him, and then, their dad, Denny from, um, oh my gosh, not 90210, Denny from Grey's Anatomy.
Okay.
You didn't watch Grey's Anatomy, did you?
I watched a little Grey's Anatomy when it first started.
Denny was the heart patient.
Oh, you told me about this. Yeah, yeah.
Denny's the dad. He's also in Walking Dead, but that doesn't matter because we pretend that that doesn't that he's not that character because he's that character's awful. But the dad, and he's basically taken his sons from this very young, tender age, and when Sam was a baby, and they go and they hunt demons and monsters, and that's what they do. And then Dad goes out hunting and doesn't come back.
Mhm.
And so, Sam, the younger brother, was away at college living a normal life. And then Dean comes and gets him. He's like, Dad's gone hunting. And he hasn't been home in a couple of days. And Sam knows exactly what that means. And so the first season is just the two of them. They're supposed to be looking for their dad, but really it's them falling in love again and repairing their brotherly relationship. And
So they had like a rift in the past at some point.
absolute rift because Sam wanted to go to college and have a normal life.
Oh, okay.
It's fantastic. Fantastic. And I've got 14 more seasons to go.
Of 22 episodes, an hour each. Is this?
Yup.
Is it?
Yup.
Yeah. That's a commitment. I still haven't finished Farscape, and I started that. Like 2 months ago. And that's only like 4 seasons, but it's like 22, 23 episodes, and they're an hour long. And maybe one day, maybe when I
see that I'm
retire,
gonna get through this because all I hear is that it holds up and people want more.
up until the very end, it holds up for 21, 22 seasons.
Today, they want more. They beg for more. There's fanfic written about this constantly.
Oh, I'm sure. My brother's first film he was in was Jared Padalecki, and so I got to meet them like many years ago, on set. And who knew he was about to start a journey of 22 years on the same TV show?
15, but okay.
Okay, I feel
Well,
like it's
15 seasons. I don't know how many years.
150 years. And then that's what it feels like. In Actorland,
that's forever.
It feels like forever.
And then they both have new shows. They
Well, he
both
was
have
on
new shows.
Walker, Texas Ranger. Like, they both stay working. They work a lot.
Yeah, which is
them.
fantastic. Good for them
Yeah.
because I loved his character on Gilmore Girls. He was like I would have chosen his character. His name was Dean on Gilmore Girls. I would have chosen Dean.
And he's Sam on the new one.
And he's Sam. I know it was really confusing me. It was really confusing me. It's like, but he's Dean.
Someone else is Dean, and he's Sam.
But yeah, he has a type. Plays a good guy, and he plays it well.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Huh. Well, I'm glad that you are enjoying this very ancient television show.
It is ancient because they got the flip phones, they got the Blackberries, and I'm like, how does that work again?
Maybe I should watch because I'm writing this 1999, and it's not that far away from 1999 when it started, at least.
I remind you of what's going on, and it's all supernatural stuff, and there's some interesting takes on monsters too. Very interesting takes on monsters.
Well, I know that supernatural fan fiction has birthed many a paranormal romance author and other authors too. So it must be good source material because it lives on.
That's one of the reasons that I'm watching it is because I'm writing my demon books, and there's brothers in there, and I was like, okay, I need some good fodder for these brothers who both love and hate each other, and they're not good with emotions, and this is perfect playing ground, perfect sandbox for me.
So happy to hear it. Yay.
Guys, we would love to know what you are reading and writing. You can absolutely let us know what you think about the books that you're reading. And you can also let us know what you think about this episode. You can leave a comment on YouTube with your thoughts on this episode. You can share it with a friend who loves romance. And please remember to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And you can always check out our book schedule on our website, inkandmagic.net, to read along with us in the Psy-Changeling series. We're back to the main series in 2 weeks with Shield of Winter and our Arrow era. And we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.